Okay, I'm now at the spring. I'm going to get in position so you can basically see. As you see above, it says Iron Spring. As you're noticing the ground around me, you're noticing that it's got iron in it. You can clearly see that the water is orange or yellow for Yellow Springs, but it's clearly, this is a spring. This is where it would bubble up from. This is the area, this gazebo area was put in. The water would definitely come up here, and it was supposed to be helpful. Now, I was reading a couple things as I'm talking before I'm making this film. Behind me is the hotel. The Yellow Springs Hotel is behind me over here. Now, this was a resort. Now I'm starting to get the idea of this whole area, and I'd like to share some information with you. Okay, this was a resort probably around 1720. The colonials knew about this. People from Philadelphia came to this area for the healing properties. These springs here, they were healing properties. They think if you bathe in these, that it would take away arthritis, gout, all kinds of different ailments that you suffered from during the colonial era. And there was definitely roads, from what I was reading, there was roads that came into this area, and a lot of people knew about this area. Even up until, the Civil War time is when it started to go down a little bit. This area lost its interest during that time. But from about 1720 all the way up until most likely the Civil War period, people came here. This was a resort. There's a big hotel, I'll pan over and show you the hotel, where people stayed. They would take a carriage from Philadelphia or the outlying areas. They would come here and they would bathe in the waters. Now there's a ruin over here of the bathhouse. There was a pool there, and it would have had this water in that pool, and there was changing rooms, and there was places where you would just privately bathe. There was little bathing rooms over there. Now that structure's closed right now, but you can definitely see the ruins over there of that structure. That structure was built probably around maybe the 1840s or 1850s, and then it fell out of favor, and then, like I said, in the Civil War period, this place fell out of favor. Now, because of that 1720. So I'm thinking now that that hospital was built here because of if somebody was sick or a Revolutionary War soldier was sick, they brought here. Maybe they did use some of the water for some properties, maybe putting Band-Aids or bandages on some of these guys that had that water on it. So I'm thinking it was purposely built here because this was known as a healing area. Now, like I said, you could actually see the area. It's rusty. It's called Yellow Springs, but it's iron. It's probably iron leaching through the area. Now, as we know, iron is somewhat good for you. Too much is bad for you. Iron enriches your blood. It makes you more healthier. It stops anemia. And, there was probably conditions where, people did have anemia. Maybe they had cholera or dysentery, and they drank this water and it kind of restored their system. That's just my best guess. I'm not a physician. Now, I'll pan over and I'm going to show you this beautiful hotel up on the hill there. Now, that's a Victorian hotel. That wasn't probably here. There's only one structure here, and it's behind the camera. That was Washington's headquarters. When I was walking by, I saw the blue and white star stripe flag denoting Washington's headquarters. And doing some research, I found that's where he stayed when he moved through this area after the Battle of Brandywine. But let's pan up here and I'll show you that beautiful hotel. It's gorgeous. Okay, there's the hotel here. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, just go very slowly. As you can see, it's a very big, large Victorian structure. It has a place outside where during the summertime, because there was no air conditioning at that time, they would sit out in the porch and have tea or just, sit out there because it was cool. And if you see upstairs, there's two different floors. It's a three-story structure. I was in that building before, and I know for a fact that there is a ballroom there. They did dance here. They did have parties here. This was a recreational area. Not only were the springs here, but also different recreational things that they did were here also. And I'm going to show you Washington's headquarters. You can't really see it. Pan over.
right here behind that house right here was an original structure from the 17, I don't know exactly what the date is, but it was definitely here during the battle, after the battle, and when he came through during after the Battle of Brandywine, when he went up to Reading. Go over here again. It's a gorgeous structure, pretty. This is another hall. If I pan over here, you'll see another structure in the distance. This looks like maybe a chow hall. It's definitely a structure that would be here during the Victorian era when this was in its own, when this was people were coming here. You can see that. It's definitely some type of hall. And what we're going to do, we're going to run around and we're going to see the old bathhouse. Now, in the distance here, you can't really see it too much. I'm going to actually dismount the camera, and we're going to take a look at the old bathhouse, the Victorian bathhouse, where they had a full-size pool, and they probably had rooms where you would go into and just sit and bathe in the water. Okay, guys, this is the spring. As you see or hear it, you can see the water that's dripping out of the spring here. This is the yellow tinge of the iron oxide that's coming up through the area. And as you can see, this is completely full. This is the spring. It just basically trickles over here now and goes into the creek. This is the gazebo where people would stay. This probably, maybe is original, maybe not. It's probably built later on. And you can see the creek. This is the stream going into the little creek here. And as you can see, all the iron oxide that's in the water. Yellow Springs, there we go. And if you go into the distance, there's the ruins. Up here, you can see where the roof is. That's a structure there. And there, up there, you can see where the roof went. And in the distance here, you'll see the main house. It's white. This is the main house. This is the bathhouse in the distance. Okay, and that's the pool. This would be the pool area. Now, I'm going to sneak around. I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to sneak around there, guys. And I think I'm going to go and take a look. If I could sneak in and get some pictures, that would be wonderful. I think that would be really cool. All right, join me in the next video. Okay, here's the pool house where I was extremely lucky to walk around and look inside and see if we can get some pictures of this pool house, which we can. It really looks Victorian inside. You gotta see this. It's really cool. Now, what I'm going to do with this pool house is I'm going to use the tripod, and I'm going to try to take the tripod and lift the camera over and get into that pool because the walls are kind of high and you can only get some type of glimpses of it. But with this tripod that I'm using, I think I'll be able to lift this camera over and put it directly over the pool so you can kind of get an idea of how these how the Yellow Springs worked and how the Victorians sat in this. This was probably built probably around 1890. I think it fell out of favor probably around the 30s. They probably didn't really use these buildings that much anymore. But it was built purposely for the hot springs. There is a hotel here, and like I said, probably by then there were the Washington Hall, as it was called. It was the original hospital, was being used on all these buildings around here. This was a tourist destination, and this is where they went in and they enjoyed the water. Let's go take a look. Okay, guys, now I'm holding the tripod right now, and if you see right here behind me, it's a huge wall, okay? Now, over this wall is the pool, okay? Sorry about the video. I'm not on a tripod right now. And now I'm going to take this tripod, I'm going to lift it up, and you're going to be able to see that pool, that spring, or that Yellow Springs pool, and then we'll look into probably the changing or the stalling area. You can actually put the camera in through there. Let's go pop up and take a look. Okay, guys, that's pretty good. If you look over, I'm going to walk with it and go over. You can see the pool area. It's straight down below you. You can see over. Look over here. Go over more. And you can see this area.
Okay guys, that was the pool area. You probably got a pretty good glimpse of it. Looks like there's some kids in there, did some graffiti and so forth of the area. But it still looks good. It's concrete, it's a pool, it's got green water of course in it, but that's the original. That would have been fed by the springs. Now let's take the camera down and I'll actually walk with it to get some idea of the area too. You can pan around and so forth. So let me adjust the camera, we'll go take a look inside. You see there's a creek here, little creek. This is Yellow Springs. Probably, you know, there's a little creek here that goes through. All right, let's walk along the wall here. This is the pool, right where the camera was. And we're just walking with the tripod. We're gonna go take a look inside some of the windows. All right, the first one is where this little piece of wood is. Let's go take a look up here. Now I'm going to step on this piece of wood and we're going to take a look inside. Okay, here's the pool below us. Okay, can't really get enough of this grate here, but you can see where the stairs are. Let me zoom in on that. Now I'm holding this manually, so it's going to be a little bit difficult, but it's focusing directly on. That's a hard focus because you're seeing the thing focusing, but you can see where they go in. That's where the stairs would be in the corner there to get into the pool. Okay. Let me back out. Sorry about that with the grate. Let's keep the kids out of here. So we're going to walk down a little farther here into the last one. And hopefully you can get an idea. There's the pool. It goes all the way down. But you can see the stairs and the changing rooms. I can actually see a mirror back there. I wish that this grate wasn't here. I can see a mirror, hooks, and a door. Changing stations for the pool. Behind that door back there, okay? And you can see it's wood. Whole structure up there was wood. To send this grate is here, I would have had a fabulous shot. Okay, walk around. Going to walk around the building. Going to walk around to the front door, and we'll take a look there. But not too much to see here. I mean, I pretty much stuck the camera up above, and I hope that footage comes out. So let's walk around to the side of the building and see what we got. So again, this is the front of the building. This is how you got into the pool. You went in here. You went in there. You probably changed your clothes, put on a bathing suit, and you went into that large pool that we saw. It was all concrete. It was, you know, old, of course. The concrete was probably from the 1800s, possibly turn of the century. But yeah, it was still in operation here. Now, like I said about Washington being here, they must have known something. Somebody told them, maybe Congress. Because Washington wouldn't have known about these springs, I don't think. He was a Virginia man. He wasn't from Pennsylvania. I don't think he knew about these healing springs. He might have, and he might not have. So I'm gonna change over. I think I'm gonna change over a battery pack, and then I'm gonna switch off. I'm gonna be right back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Battery pack was a little low. I did replace it. Like I was saying before, I don't think Washington knew about this too much. I think that basically maybe he was talking to Congress about getting his wounded out of Valley Forge, and they came to the conclusion, because the Congress was from Philadelphia, they knew about this. Maybe they knew about these springs. They probably maybe told Washington that, why don't you put a hospital down where those healing springs are? Because the healing springs are good for people that are sick or have problems, because they didn't know about medicine back then too much, you know. Fixing the lens there. So, you know, that's probably, maybe that's why Washington had the hospital here. But I'll get back to you on that one. Like I said, these are all new places to me. I don't know too much about them. I only know a little bit about these areas. I did read a little bit about them. But, you know, like I said, this was definitely a healing area. There There was a place, I think it was in West Virginia, where Washington as a child or as a young man went. There were healing springs there. I think they were called Barkley Springs. I'm not really sure, but don't quote me on that. But actually, I was in Barkley Springs, West Virginia, and I did see a pool there. They still use these waters today. We actually enjoyed the mineral water they had. They made products with the mineral water, and I noticed that there was a tub there. It was cut out of the rock where there was water in it, and it says Washington's bathtub or something to that extent. So Washington knew about these healing springs. He had to know about them because he did when he in his youth he did go to healing springs. So maybe Congress said to him, there is a place that has healing springs, and Washington from his youth probably knew that. Hey, I went in the water, I felt better. He said, and then maybe that's his decision. I'm really trying to get an idea of why he built the hospital at Yellow Springs, a place that was known from 1720 that was known to have healing properties. And I'm coming up with probably my best guess being today is that hospital was put here because that's what they knew at the time. They knew that healing springs helped people that were sick. And it was close by to Valley Forge. So the hospital was built after during the Revolutionary War period. These springs were not being used. Like I said, in 1720, you had people come from Philadelphia down to here and stay in the hotels and so forth and have parties, picnics, and dancing and things that were here. But during the Revolutionary War time, this was a busy place. This was a busy place. All this would have had encampments. There would have been tents. That hospital not only held soldiers because there were so many sick during that Valley Forge campaign. I bet you, again, all the tea in China, that there would have been huts or there would have been different types of teepees and wigwams and you name it were out in these fields filled with the sick. Because that hospital, as you saw, was kind of small. They probably put the worst case scenarios in that hospital. They probably went into the hospital probably to be evaluated. How sick is he? Like they're doing a triage today. The triage people that come into the hospital. You know, they see them. They say, oh, heart attack, get him back. Oh, he's got a cut finger, just put a bandage on and let him sit out there. They probably did the same thing in this hospital. They came in, they evaluated how sick you were, and that's where you went. You went into the main hospital, the main building, Washington's Hall, or you were able to stand out in the field and wait your turn. That's what I think really happened here. You waited your turn to be seen. Now, if you were on death's doorstep, I mean, most of these guys coming in here, they probably had gangrene, they had cholera, they had all kinds of waterborne diseases because at Valley Forge they had all these problems of sanitary issues and so forth. But they brought them here. I would think that they only brought them out of camp to bring them to these outside hospitals only in extreme cases where they probably know that they weren't going to live and they were not an asset to the Army. Now, how many guys came here? I would love to know that. We don't know the exact the exact number of people that came to this area. But my best guess, my best estimate, I would say is thousands. Easily thousands of guys would have been all over here. And even after they left the encampment in Valley Forge to go back into Philadelphia and take the city back and go fight, another day. Oh my God, there were still guys that probably were sick. They had, you hear stories of them having no shoes. They had this and that. But, in the springtime of 1778, it got a little bit better, Valley Forge, you hear about those bad things. But I think it was during the winter time and just in the springtime where people started to get sick. But it's March. It's the late part of March. It's March 26th today. I would think around this time, they were getting ready to get out of there. They had the spring air and things like that, and that spring air they cut holes in their huts because Washington again let the bad air out. They thought that letting air in stop with some of these germs and so forth. But hospitals, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the wounded at Brandywine. We're talking about where they went and what happened after the battle. Like I said, I'm more interested to find out what happened. I know about the battle. We all know what, kind of, if you look it up, we all know how that played out, what happened and how that played out. But what I'm trying to figure out now with the rest of these videos is what happened afterwards. Where did these guys go? What did they do? And, what happened afterwards? Did people die? Did they recover? Did they go back to their families? What happened to all these soldiers? Because you know what? Dead men don't tell tales. I'm telling you, we only have written accounts, or we have folklore or things passed down from generation, which gets messed up. It's like whispering from one person. By the time it gets to the 20th person, if you whisper to each person, it's a different story. So the only thing that can tell this story is handwritten notes and things from the soldiers themselves. Now, I think I had one on my cell phone. I was reading an article. Now, I don't know if it was a soldier that stayed there. It was from the 1800s. Now, I'm going to read this to you. I'm kind of curious myself. I was looking up Yellow Springs in the herb garden, of course. That's what it says. It's Yellow Springs Herb Garden. And it says right here, it says memorial during We the People in 200 years, We the People celebration. It was the Constitution. It says this is an account from a man that stayed in the hospital. I don't know, was it a hospital after the Revolutionary War? It says, as usually, I packed in wet sheets early in the morning for about 2 hours. When I felt freely under the warm influences of Sunday blankets and comforts and a feather bed, all pressed and squeezed tight close around me. Upon rising, or rather upon being raised up from his vapor bath, I walked to a deep, very cold plunge bath, when I suddenly am stripped of my blankets and then instantly jump into the water head almost. And it says July 19th, 1847. And that was a letter from a patient, John Knight, to his wife describing his treatment in the old refurbished hospital. Old refurbished hospital. That gives you some insight. Now that's a direct letter. That's not somebody saying to one's father, oh, I heard about this guy who stayed in there. Now you're talking feather beds. You're talking 1847. You know what it looks to me like? It looks like that hospital, Washington's Hall, it had to be used. I mean, there must have been people around here. The hotel didn't have enough people. I mean, it did have people. It was full. Maybe they used Washington's Hall, this old hospital, as a place to keep people to stay there. You know, they were staying there. They probably used the hall they still had people come here around 1847. So it sounds like he was just, maybe he was sick. He came here. He was, he wasn't feeling well. He was awakened. He was taken down to the baths to make him feel better. That's what it was. So it gives you an idea about that Washington hospital being there. So they were still using that building. And like I said, around 1902, it burnt down. It burnt into the ground, but they did rebuild it. I guess that maybe people were still coming to this area, and they rebuilt it, but in 1962, that's it. What you see there is from 1962. There was probably another fire that took the building down, and thank God today that building still exists. They didn't demolish it because there was no, around here, everything's been the same here. Really, nothing's changed here. They're not going to tear that down and put another house up there. This is a historic district. It's an artsy town now. A lot of studios here where they do art and things like that. And it's a very desirable area to live, to be honest with you. It's a very quiet area. But enough with the area. Like I said, we're talking about hospitals. We're talking about Revolutionary War period. We're talking about different things that I haven't talked about. We're talking about the lives of soldiers after the battle. Now, I'm really glad to get back into this, to do a little bit more history. I think I was going to stay out of it for a while, but I think I'm going back into it. Now, not to make this too long, because I do ramble on. Sorry about that. I do ramble. But I'm going to finish up with saying I really appreciate doing these videos. It makes me proud to be an American to do something like this and to preserve history. Now, not everything. Don't take my context all. This is only my own thought. I've been doing this for a long time, and what I see, I kind of understand to the best of my ability. I know that there's people out there that would say, hey, listen, that hearth is completely wrong. That was a bed. Now, It's a hearth. We all know that because it arched over. Okay, and you know where they brought the patients in? That's what it looks like to me, and the stairs are definitely. Don't quote me on it, but it's my own best guess. I'm trying to give you guys what exactly I think it is. I'm pretty good at seeing things for what they are and things like that. But listen, there's more videos to come. Now, I'm not going to probably do one for a couple more days. I want to do some research on that last place we were at, that barn, and those Revolutionary Wars guys. That's probably my biggest project right now. But as we saw, this is the town, the historic town of Yellow Springs. And I'm glad you guys got to see it today. And listen, God bless you.